In the ancient land of Argos, a tale began that would echo through the ages, the story of a boy born from the love of a god and a mortal woman, destined to become one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. This is the story of Perseus. King Acrisius of Argos was a man haunted by a prophecy. The oracle of Delphi had foretold that his own grandson would one day kill him. Fearful of this fate, Acrisius took drastic measures to prevent it from coming true. He locked his only daughter, Danae, in a bronze chamber deep beneath the palace, where no man could reach her. But the king had not accounted for the power of the gods. Zeus, the king of the gods, had seen Danae and was captivated by her beauty. Determined to be with her, Zeus transformed himself into a shower of golden light and descended into Danae's chamber. There, from their union, a child was conceived, Perseus. When Acrisius discovered that Danae had given birth to a son, he was furious and terrified. To avoid the wrath of the gods and still protect himself from the prophecy, he placed Danae and the infant Perseus in a wooden chest and cast them into the sea, leaving their fate to the whims of the waves. But the gods had not abandoned Danae and Perseus. The chest floated safely to the island of Seriphos, where it was discovered by a kind fisherman named Dictys. Dictys took them in, raising Perseus as his own son. Under his care, Perseus grew strong and brave, unaware of his royal lineage or the prophecy that had set his life on its path. As Perseus grew into manhood, his strength and courage became known throughout the island. But his life took a darker turn when King Polydectes, the ruler of Seriphos and brother of Dictys, became infatuated with Danae. Polydectes desired her for his wife, but she rejected him. Angered by her refusal and envious of Perseus's growing fame, Polydectes devised a plan to rid himself of the young hero. The king announced that he was to marry another woman and requested that all the men of Seriphos bring him a wedding gift. Perseus, who had little to offer, boasted that he could bring the king anything, even the head of Medusa, the dreaded Gorgon whose gaze turned men to stone. Polydectes, seizing the opportunity, demanded that Perseus make good on his boast, expecting that the young hero would meet his end in the attempt. Undeterred by the impossible task, Perseus set out on his quest. But he was not alone. The gods, who had watched over him since birth, came to his aid. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, appeared before him, offering her guidance in a polished shield, so reflective that it could serve as a mirror. Hermes, the messenger god, gifted him winged sandals to fly across the skies. From Hades, the lord of the underworld, he received a helm of darkness that rendered him invisible, and the Hesperides, nymphs of the evening, gave him a magical bag called a cabesus to carry Medusa's head. With these divine gifts, Perseus journeyed to the edge of the world, where the Gorgons dwelled. The Gorgons were monstrous sisters, with snakes for hair and scales covering their bodies. Of the three, Medusa was the only mortal, making her the only one Perseus could defeat. Arriving at their lair, Perseus found Medusa asleep. Using the reflective shield to avoid her deadly gaze, he approached her carefully. Then, with a swift and precise stroke, he beheaded her, placing her head in the cabesus. From Medusa's blood sprang the winged horse Pegasus and the golden giant Chrysaor, both born of her union with Poseidon. But Perseus had little time to marvel at these wonders. Medusa's sisters, Stheno and Euryale, awakened and pursued him in a furious rage. Using the helm of darkness, Perseus escaped their wrath, flying away on Hermes' winged sandals. As Perseus flew back to Seriphos, he passed over the kingdom of Ethiopia, where a new challenge awaited him. The land was in turmoil, its people living in fear of a sea monster sent by Poseidon to punish their queen, Cassiopeia. The queen had boasted that her daughter, Andromeda, was more beautiful than the Nereids, the sea nymphs beloved by Poseidon. To appease the gods' wrath, Andromeda was chained to a rock as a sacrifice to the monster. When Perseus saw the beautiful Andromeda bound to the rock, he was struck by her plight and vowed to save her. As the sea monster rose from the depths, Perseus confronted it. Using Medusa's head, he turned the beast to stone, shattering it into the sea. Andromeda was saved, and her parents, King Cepheus and Queen Cassiopeia, offered her hand in marriage as a reward. Perseus and Andromeda were wed in a grand celebration, but their happiness was not without challenge. During the wedding feast, Andromeda's former suitor, Phineus, attempted to claim her, but Perseus, ever the hero, turned him to stone with Medusa's head. With his new bride, Perseus returned to Seriphos, where he found that Polydectes had been mistreating Danae in his absence. Furious, Perseus marched into the king's court and revealed Medusa's head, turning Polydectes and his followers to stone. With the wicked king gone, Dictys was made king of Seriphos, and Perseus, having avenged his mother, returned Medusa's head to Athena, who placed it on her shield, the Aegis, as a symbol of her power. Perseus's journey did not end there. He returned to Argos with Andromeda, where he sought to reunite with his grandfather, Acrisius. But the prophecy that had shaped Perseus's life was still to be fulfilled. Acrisius, still fearful of his grandson, fled to another kingdom. Despite his efforts to avoid fate, Acrisius's doom was sealed. During an athletic contest in the neighboring kingdom, Perseus accidentally struck Acrisius with a discus, killing him instantly. The prophecy had come true, though not by any malicious intent of Perseus. Stricken with grief, Perseus buried his grandfather with honor. Unwilling to rule Argos, where his grandfather's blood had been spilled, he exchanged his kingdom for Tiryns, where he and Andromeda lived in peace. Perseus and Andromeda had many children, who would go on to found powerful dynasties. In time, Perseus was honored as one of the greatest heroes of Greece, his deeds celebrated in song and story. As a final reward for his courage and virtue, the gods placed Perseus and Andromeda among the stars, immortalizing their love and adventures in the night sky as constellations. Thus, the story of Perseus, the hero who overcame impossible odds, fulfilled his destiny, and achieved everlasting glory, continues to inspire generations with its timeless lessons of bravery, honor, and the power of the gods.